I've had several farmers contact me since the beginning of the year. Where's this market at? Should I jump back in? Should I just wait? What should I do? And I say, unless you have a very, very confident market, and that's not, when I say confident, that doesn't mean someone promises you anything. You got to really do your due diligence here. If you're confident you have a market for your biomass, or you're going to turn it into oil yourself or other products, whatever, smokable, whatever, don't bother. There's right now the price for biomass in itself is not attractive. If you're looking for the CBD.
That's Lancaster County hemp farmer Steve Groff. This is the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast. My name is Eric Herlock, and today is the Steve Groff episode. We not only have the cover crop Steve Groff, who's going to talk all about his hemp operation and his field prep for this year, and plus his vertically integrated CBD brand and a whole lot more. We're also going to check in with Dr. Steve Groff. You remember him from the HempTrain story from a couple of years ago. Well, the HempTrain is coming back. It's been moved to a new location, and there's a lot of neat things happening up there at Groff, North America. So stay tuned for a whole lot of Steve Groff. First, a quick message from our sponsor, and then we'll come back in with some hemp news nuggets. This episode is brought to you by IND Hemp in Montana, where they just passed historic legislation around hemp as a feed for horses and pets. This is a major victory for hemp and an excellent legislative step to help bring attention to the task of making hemp feed legal for all animals in the U.S. To learn how you can bring the same sort of legislation to your state and to help assist the larger efforts on national approvals, reach out to hempfeedcoalition.org. All right, so just a few nuggets of hemp news this week before we get into our double Steve Groff episode. Okay, so the big news in the hemp industry this week is that the state of Idaho has finally legalized the growing of industrial hemp. So now hemp is legal to grow in all 50 states. This next story comes from YourCenterValley.com out of Fresno, California, and it's written by Dom McAndrew. And the headline reads, HempTrain leaves Fresno for Denver. First legal railroad shipment to cross state lines in 84 years. All right, so it's not the HempTrain that we're going to talk about later in the episode. This is an actual HempTrain. And the story says that a major milestone for the hemp industry was passed Tuesday in Fresno County as the first legal shipment via railroad was sent on its way across state lines, the first time since the prohibition of hemp 84 years ago. The 17,000 pounds of industrial hemp left the Fowler Train Depot bound for a research and development lab in Denver, Colorado. The hemp was grown at the Golden State Hemp Farm in Fresno. Owners say that the plant can be used to create biodegradable plastic, industrial fibers, and medicinal treatments, describing this as an important revival for the hemp industry. We're not reinventing the wheel, says Golden State Hemp CEO Jeff Friedland. And he adds that the nation's railroads will be a critical component as the hemp industry begins to take root again. Yeah, all aboard the hemp train. All right, here is another one. This is from Hemp Industry Daily. It's written by Kristen Nichols. You remember her. She's been on our show before. And I want to reach out to her and talk to her about this very story because this is going to be a big deal. So the headline says, Paid to Grow Hemp? Biden's proposed carbon bank has industry intrigued. The story says that hemp farmers are positioned to be big winners if the United States begins paying farmers to sequester carbon as a method to battle climate change. But there are a lot more questions than answers right now about how so-called carbon farming would work, or how hemp operators specifically could benefit. The backstory is this. Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack has talked about using the $30 billion from his agency's Commodity Credit Corp to pay farmers to adopt practices that could remove carbon from the atmosphere and fight global warming. The money was used by the former administration for COVID-19 pandemic relief and to pay farmers who were hurt by a trade war with China. But the Biden administration might be able to redirect that money to create a carbon market that would directly pay farmers, part of the administration's larger Climate 21 project. The fund was created in 1933 with a charter that specifically mentions stabilizing and creating markets, Vilsack has pointed out. So, hey, there you go. Wouldn't that be amazing? This ties in with my whole vision of how farmers are going to save the world. Yeah, you can do it. All right, and then just one more. This is a Pennsylvania-specific thing, but I am guessing this is open to everybody. There is a hemp webinar series. It's put out by Penn State Extension. It's called CBD Research Update. The hemp webinar series is for hemp producers to learn about the latest research on hemp CBD production in Pennsylvania. It takes place on Monday, May 17th, 2021, from noon to 1 Eastern Time. It will be a live online Zoom call. So I will put a link to this webinar on the show page for this episode at lancasterfarming.com, and I will also put the links to those other two stories. Well, let's get into our interviews with Steve Groff and Steve Groff. Steve Groff, welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great, Eric. It's always good to catch up with you. And again, I appreciate listening to your shows. I don't catch them all, but I catch a lot of them, and appreciate all you're doing for the whole hemp world out there.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, we're trying. We're all in this together, so it's neat to be involved in this industry and watching it come together. Mm-hmm. So how are things down on Cedar Meadow Farm?
I think the big news for us is that last year, probably around January of 2020, I decided that I need to, maybe I'll say, take things a little bit into my own hands with the way the CBD market plummeted. So I began the process of launching my own brand, cedarmeadow.farm, and it's taken a lot longer than we expected, which things normally do, but even so. So we do have a presence. We are selling CBD oil for both people and pets, and we just have got our first equine offerings out there, both in the oil and also with equine brownie treats to do the horses. That's kind of the big thing right now for us in where we're at in this stage of the game. Okay,
cool. And then, so that's like what you would call vertically integrated, right?
Yeah, keeping everything in the local area here, working with some folks with the whole process and so forth, but. Yeah, it's been a fun process, really. It's been hard, but it's been fun. And I got to tell you, Eric, the most gratifying thing for me is we were testing some of the product with flavors and so forth, and people were getting. And I'm like, here, just try it. And of course, they have their questions about what CBD is and what should I think about here. And I think like 80% or more come back and say, wow, that was really helpful. I slept better. Or my osteoarthritis,
yeah.
Yeah, that. And my aunt, who's 88 years old, she's like my biggest fan. She says, this is the best I've felt in 3 years. And so it's really been fun to hear the results. I mean, yeah, we're farmers. We're trying to make a living, but man, it's nice to have a product that actually affects people's lives positively in a health sense.
Right. And like almost immediately. Right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
And then so you're using everything that you grew on your farm last year and the year before?
Yeah. I'm
still have some of that?
It. We're still working off 2019 crop. It's going to be a happy day when that crop's all processed. But it is what it is. We're making use of it, and And yeah, it is an exciting time as we develop our business models and so forth, and in the whole thing of selling our CBD products.
Okay. How about growing hemp this year? What's your plan this year?
Well, I'm going to tell you like I tell everybody. Um, People ask, so how much are you going to plant? And I'm like, talk to me in about August, and I'll tell you. So no, I'm gonna have a couple acres out there. A lot of it's testing varieties. I'm still involved in that. I'm actually gonna dip my toe into the water with some grain varieties and some fiber varieties as well.
Okay.
Working with King's Agri Seeds on that, so a little shout out for them.
Yeah.
I know they're a partner for you there. So we're gonna do some of that. Probably have a field day here, maybe late August or something.
Okay.
So yeah, just I don't really intend at this point to grow much fiber, but I want to see it. I want to see how it works on my farm. Maybe I will.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be that fiber and seed it's not center stage yet like CBD is, but it's getting on the stage. And just to know, I'm like all that are listening, we're fascinated by this plant.
Yeah.
I mean, this plant is literally a gift that keeps on giving. We just have to figure out how to work it all out. But I'm really enjoying this aspect of farming. I'm a third generation farmer, so man, life would be boring if you just grow corn and soybeans.
Yeah. So I know you're the cover crop coach, and you haven't tilled your land in what, like 1,000 years?
Not quite 1,000, but getting close.
So what kind of prep are you doing, this time of year, getting ready for planting?
Right now, I'm looking out over my fields here as I sit in my pickup truck getting this interview, and I'm looking at the nice green fields. Cover crops are growing. So I'm just watching my field get prepared. Not trying to be funny, but people are racing around trying to plow their ground and make raised beds and all that stuff. I'm just waiting patiently while my cover crops grow. And one of the things that we've learned, and I think there's general consensus here, is there's no advantage really to plant, especially our CBD photosensitive varieties. There's no advantage to really plant them early.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, it's better to plant them later. So we're not going to plant anything till the middle of June.
Okay.
And that's even the transplants, and tried some direct seeding last year, and probably can be categorized as pretty much a failure, even though we thought we knew what we were doing. But we have some new ideas we're going to approach this year. I'm going to keep dabbling in direct seeding into the cover crops that are rolled down with a cover crop crimper.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been doing this for over 25 years in my other vegetables and crops. So there is a learning curve to that. And I would suggest anybody interested in doing that need to get some education and understand how that all works. But so yeah, I'm not doing a lot of field prep, as far as, activities until actually not till June.
Okay.
That's the way my system works, and we're able to save our soil from wearing off. We're able to get all of the water infiltrated, and a lot of good things about soil health, which kind of leads me to we really believe there's a benefit to even the product, the final product. And our tagline for our business here in Cedar Meadow Farm is better soil, better oil. And people might kind of react and say, well, I get the better soil part, but the better oil, is your oil actually better because it was grown in this system? And I'm like, well, so far it seems to be. We've had several tests done on it, and I'll just say we like what we see. And once we have a little bit more of a stronger third-party validation, we'll let the world know. But there seems to be something there, so we'll see how that dynamic unfolds.
All right. I caught part of an interview that you did with what's his name, the hot rod farmer, Ray.
Oh yes.
And you were
Ray Borges, yes.
Yeah, he's a good guy. And you were talking about the tillage radish and sort of how you were a pioneer in that. Can you sort of tell that story, like where that came from?
Well, yeah, I can try to keep that to a few minutes. So in 1995, I started working with Dr. Ray Weil at the University of Maryland testing some cover crops. And in 2001, he brought this radish here that he had seen in Brazil. And after the first year of research here on my farm, I noticed how these radishes loosened up the soil and they made it more mellow. You plant them in the fall, and then they winter kill over the winter. And by springtime, the soil was like, you didn't even really need to till it. And so I said, where do you get these radishes? Because I want them for the rest of my farm. He said, what's the problem? We're using a daikon type radish. Like, you can buy them in the store. It's like a vegetable. The Asian people love them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, again, really cramming the story in a short space here. I started, he directed me to the best variety he knew. And we started seeing really good, consistent success. And word started getting out that I was growing these. I intended just to grow enough seed. I was going to grow them for seed, just for my own use. But he was telling everybody about it. And by 2004, I started selling seeds. And then there was a lot of confusion. What is this radish? And so we named it and branded it tillage radish because it does the tillage for you. So that led to a major seed company that I began, and we started selling this all over the world. Wow. There's literally tillage radish in many, many countries, and probably every state in the United States and all over Canada. And that really was some people have said that the tillage radish is really what was the spark plug to the current cover crop movement, because farmers really saw a difference in their soil. What's interesting is you come up to date here now, tillage radishes are no longer used as a single species cover crop. Matter of fact, I wouldn't even recommend them for that. They're more or less I call it the salt and pepper of a cover crop mix. Okay. So you just plant a few of them out there in the mix of other cover crops, and it'll help. Their root penetrating ability is as good as annual ryegrass, which is kind of like the standard out there in that regard. So they root deeply, and they bring up nutrients that your cash crop may not have gotten, and they deposit them on the top when they decay. So seeing increased yields, particularly in the commodity crops like corn and soybeans, almost every single time they were planted, we saw increased yields. Oh. And that's really what got them on the map. And so here we are today. They're everywhere. There's a lot of different brands out there, but the tillage radish kind of led the way in that.
Yeah. So what do you recommend as a good mix then for cover crops?
Well, if we're talking hemp here, in the fall, I would plant about 1 or 2 pounds of a radish, and I like 30, 40 pounds of triticale, and we've found hairy vetch to really help boost the hemp. So putting about 15 pounds of hairy vetch. You want to keep it simple. There's 3 cover crops: radishes, triticale, and hairy vetch. That's a great basic combo. You can go 12 species if you want. If you have a time to plant in the fall, you can go all different kinds of ways on that. But that's the base mix that I use. And I'll just say, Eric, that we have noticed in my trials here that hemp really likes hairy vetch. Yeah. There's something about it, and I can't explain it. Better than crimson clover, even though crimson clover could be stated to be similar in nitrogen production as a legume to hairy vetch. But wherever we had the hairy vetch, our hemp seemed to do better. Okay. So I don't have to understand it all. I observe things. That's what we go with.
Awesome. Cool. What else should hemp farmers be keeping in mind this time of year?
Well, the obvious is, do you have a market? I mean, I've had several farmers contact me since the beginning of the year. Do you think where's this market? Should I jump back in? Should I just wait? What should I do? And I say, unless you have a very, very confident market, and that's not, when I say confident, that doesn't mean someone promises you anything. You got to really do your due diligence here. If you're confident you have a market for your biomass, or you're going to turn it into oil yourself or other products, whatever, smokable, whatever, don't bother. There's right now the price for biomass in itself is not attractive if you're looking for the CBD. Now, if you're thinking long term, try a couple varieties, put a little bit out, and just stay in the game. Yeah. So that's my advice to people: find a market. That's just the biggest thing, because and it may be the hardest thing actually, but you gotta have the market if you're going to make any money out of this right now.
Right.
And that goes in the fiber and the seed too, because that market's not developed yet either to any big scale. So all these things are it's good business to be able to do that, but getting your market identified and working with trusted people. And I got to say too that trusted people isn't even enough, because I've trusted some good people too in this whole industry, and stuff happens. Markets disappear that they thought they had.
Mm-hmm.
I literally, Eric, over the last since 2019 had 4 contracts that were none of them came to completion.
Wow.
And that's now it's like the contract isn't worth much. It's more about your relationship you've had with people. That's the key. That is the key in this business right now. So yeah, I covered a lot of the market there as far as other things to get ready. Depending how you're gonna, my style is no-till and cover crops. I kind of went over that at the beginning. I will say this: if you're not comfortable with that and want to use plastic, for sure, plant some cover crops in between the rows of plastic. Usually, you can spread some Dutch white clover on your ryegrass or low-growing type, species in there, so your soil doesn't erode and keeps things in place. So that's my advice for those who are still going to be using plastic.
Right. I was talking to a consultant on last week's show about research and development tax credits. Is that something that you've taken advantage of on your farm?
I have in my cover cropping days. I'm no longer involved in the cover crop business, but yes. And that's interesting. It's all about knowing someone who can figure out the I guess I would say just figure out how that all works.
Right.
A good accountant or someone who's familiar with it. So I would encourage those that are interested in that to check it out. That's the kind of thing for me as a farmer. I just don't have time to figure all that out. And then even if I spend hours, I'm not confident that I'm even understanding it correctly. So gotta have someone that's familiar with that. But yes, it is for real, and yes, it is an advantage. If you're doing something really small scale, probably not. But yes, I would say it's worthwhile checking into.
Yeah. All right. What else you want to tell us? Anything else on your mind, industry wise or farming wise?
Well, I keep monitoring the hemp industry, and pretty much I am focused on the CBD or the hemp oil extract sector. And I want to kind of keep a touch of it because keep in touch with it because I'm involved with it to see what's the demographics out there. And those of us that are probably listening to this today, we're kind of living a bubble. I just talked to a friend of mine from church over the weekend, and he's like, "Tell me about this CBD. I don't understand it." And he knew nothing, almost nothing, other than he sees these signs everywhere. CBD. What's CBD? Yeah. And sometimes it's like, well, there's still a lot of people out there that really don't know what these hemp products can do. The other thing, Eric, is I've been doing a little research on history. I kind of like history, but in the context of hemp history, the problem with looking at hemp history is it makes you angry because like, why was this product how long?
Yeah.
And it's just so you got to deal with some emotion in that, and it's frustrating sometimes now. I mean, I know that one of the things we talk about the 0.3 and the 0.3 THC, and I know that Rand Paul just reintroduced a bill in Congress to go up to 1, which I'm in favor of because that gives us some breathing room. I mean, this 0.3 is, to me, is very arbitrarily low, and it just puts pressure on everybody. It's needless pressure.
Yep.
Why can't they just get that kind of stuff done? Let's move on. But that is the frustration of this market. That's an example of that. So, other than that, some other things that I guess I'm looking to is what is the best business model here to actually sell this stuff to the public. And you've gathered, those of you who are just hearing me for the first time here, I'm a farmer, and I've been primarily educating other farmers in the way I grow things with cover crops and no-tillage and soil health principles. I'm pivoting a little bit now in trying to reach out to the consumers. I just wrote a book called The Future Proof Farm, which you can get on my website, stevegroff.com. And that's really an effort to kind of, for farmers and for consumers, to realize that there's healthier ways to grow food and more nutritionally dense food.
Right.
And so I'm a vegetable farmer, and I'm doing that. And actually, I was just on the phone this morning, or on a call this morning here before our conversation, Eric, with a top level chef in New York City, where we're actually going to try to develop these mixes of cover crop salads. In other words, peas and oats and even hairy veg, taken at a young stage, is very edible for human consumption. So we're in this conversation, and I said, have you ever thought about little like microgreens with hemp? He goes, absolutely, we're going to include it.
Nice.
So it's like, oh my goodness, we're going to be mixing cover crops and hemp for salads. I mean, the gift that keeps on giving. That's what I'm talking about. So there's a lot of exciting things going on, but I'll just say too, looking at our business model here, and how can we reach the public? How can we get out there? And we have a distribution plan for our products. We also have an affiliate plan that will work well for others. It's kind of like, where friends can tell their friends, and then we'll fulfill it for them.
Okay.
So just trying to, in this day and age with technology and everything, you really got to think how to actually maximize your outreach, and how can we most effectively share it, and how that all works. So that's just some of the things that are going through my mind now in this. And it is exciting. I'm always a busy guy. I'm just looking around here, and I see my stripper header here that we're going to be stripping autoflower colas off here later this summer as a way to mechanically harvest in the field.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a lot of ideas running through my head, and we're going to be again seeing what's going to work this year, dialing things in and tuning things up. I'm in the hemp industry for the long haul. I'm having a good time. And hopefully one of these years, Eric, we're going to make a little money.
All right. Well, Steve Groff, it's always great to talk to you. Thank you for your time today.
Hey, you're my pleasure, Eric. Thanks again for all you do.
So, of course, he's not the only Steve Groff. There is another. Dr. Steve Groff from Groff North America. Welcome back to the podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Eric. Great to be with you.
Yeah, so it's been a while since we talked, but I think listeners of our show remember you as the guy who was bringing the HempTrain to Pennsylvania, and you contracted a bunch of local farmers to grow fiber for you back in 2019.
That's correct.
2020 was kind of a crazy year, and we lost touch a little bit, but can you bring us up to speed on the HempTrain and sort of your thoughts on fiber?
Sure, be glad to. As you accurately noted, Eric, we brought in a decorticating system from Calgary, and we're fortunate to grow about 2,000 acres of really high-quality fiber hemp. And it's been a journey, and like many of us in this space, we've explored, we've learned, we've made mistakes. But at Groff North America, we're fortunate. We've been persistent. We've been blessed with some really new, exciting opportunities. So in the last year, we've partnered with a company called MKB outside State College. They're a large biomass processing company, and we've become friends with their management. And so as we've looked at the supply chain on the hemp fiber side, we've, again, learned a lot. We've made some mistakes like everyone along the way, but we've been fortunate to move the HempTrain decorticating system to MKB's facility, and they have a great crew of people there, a lot of Amish folks in that area of what they call Big Valley, just outside State College in Belleville.
Okay.
They've got a great workforce. They've got massive biomass handling equipment. And one of the key advantages, they have a large compression bagging system, which they've used for seed straw. Well, that same system is ideal for packaging hemp hurd. And as we know, people have been importing hurd from Europe in containers and compressed bales. Well, now having access to a robotically palletized compression bagger is a huge asset, as we've now been able to get HempTrain up and running and processing some of the premium fiber we have.
Cool. So what was MKB? What kind of biomass were they processing before?
So I think they were founded in 2014, and they are a large manufacturer of silt sock and erosion control mats for construction use, and they have grown considerably. Very successful company, and again, a great workforce, access to additional farmland in that area too. So we saw it as a great opportunity. We moved the HempTrain to that facility, and we've spent some time with some other engineers in the space. Dr. Trey Riddle spent some time with us, and we're very pleased with the progress we're making. And the ability to bag herd in scale is a game changer. And we've got some large customers looking to really take our entire supply of herd. So,
oh wow,
really
what are they going to do with it? Is that for bedding, or is that for construction, or where would that herd be used?
Both applications and some others. Certainly the animal bedding is a interesting space, one of the lower margin uses, but there's growing demand for that as people become aware of the advantages of using hemp herd as bedding. The bast fiber certainly is maybe somewhat more technical challenge, but we've improved our cleaning of bast, and we're exploring some relationships with some large customers on the bast side as well.
Okay, because there's further processing that needs to be done for the bast fibers, right?
Some additional cleaning, and that's not a surprise, and that's always kind of been an industry challenge, but we have some solutions and some opportunities in spaces that don't require as clean bast, if you will.
Okay, yeah.
Slightly higher amounts of herd.
Right. So those 2,000 acres of fiber that you grew a couple of years ago, I think the last time I saw those, they were just big bales out there in York County. So are they being processed now?
Yes, they are. And we have most of those in storage at Redline inside storage. And we've begun to transport it to Belleville. It's about an hour and 30-minute trip, but MKB is a massive trucking operation as well, as they handle millions of tons of switchgrass every year. So they're used to moving biomass around, and it's going to be a great relationship.
Good. What are your plans for growing this year, if any?
So this year, we're, as you know, my family and I own Wyndridge Farm, beverage and hospitality experience here in York County. Well, we're going to grow about 40 acres of the same genetic cultivar that we grew in 2019. So we're going to be growing that on Wyndridge Farm, working on some different harvesting techniques, do some research on documenting THC and CBD levels. Really looking to kind of tie the Wyndridge experience into our overall hemp and cannabis business. Okay.
Are you going to get into brewing hemp beer? I hear that's popular in some places.
Well, we're certainly looking at using terpenes in beverage, and there's certainly also the opportunity to eventually infuse non-alcoholic beverages with cannabinoids, and lots of people are certainly doing that, selling it, talking about it, but we need a lot more science there on that side, which we want to bring to the table as well.
Right. Your interest in the plant is sort of the whole plant, in all of its facets, and you've been doing some work in medical cannabis. Can you talk a bit about that?
That's great. I've been an orthopedic surgeon in Pennsylvania since 1996. I've been a DEA registrant as a doctor, and so as I got involved in hemp about 2.5 years ago, I obviously began to look at the entire space, even beyond hemp and CBD, and I knew I wanted to explore it further, and I became aware of a program where the government was going to name an additional cannabis grower in a legal way, where federally legally someone could grow, research medical marijuana. And 14 months ago, began this journey, this odyssey with the DEA and the FDA. And as a physician, I felt that I had significant experience and could bring legitimacy to this at a scientific level. And we are nearly at the finish line of this whole program, where we will be able to cultivate and harvest marijuana federally legally in Pennsylvania as part of our whole scientific sort of approach to this with manufacturing and DEA registration. So
Oh, wow.
it's a monumental opportunity, and we're thankful that we're in this position.
Good. There are not too many of those licenses around, right? There's a place in somewhere down south that is growing for the government?
Since 1960 or late 50s, the University of Mississippi has been the only type of facility licensed, registered by the DEA. It's run by Dr. El Soli, and heretofore that is the only DEA registered. Well, we expect to be the second, and that's the position we put ourselves in. And we've worked very hard along with the FDA and DEA to complete the documentation, and expect to receive this soon. So it's going to be an honor and a great opportunity for Pennsylvania.
Talk about that. Like, what will it mean? What are the implications for the state or for farmers or for your business if you were to have this license?
It is firmly our intention to establish our 80,000 square foot facility in Red Lion as a national center for cannabinoid research and cultivation, where we're able to cultivate cannabis of any type, regardless of THC level, and truly study all the molecules, including THC, on a research basis. We have in-house lab testing. We have partnerships with some large testing companies, and we want to establish truly a center where science, data, patient research can all be run through one facility. And thankfully, the FDA and the DEA have looked favorably upon this, and we think it could be a massive job generator for Pennsylvania, a huge feather in our cap as a state with great farming history, and the same state that has 8 great medical schools and a history of medical research. And we look at schools like Penn and Jefferson and Hershey. And so, to me, again, as a young middle-aged farm boy, now a physician, now looking at cannabis research, I'm thrilled to be in this position, and I think Pennsylvania will be proud, and look forward to bringing this to fruition.
All right, good. As a physician, what has surprised you most about the cannabis plant or its, medicinal attributes? Like what surprises you about it, or what did surprise you about it?
Thanks for that question. That's a great question. And I've been treating patients literally since 1991 as a resident in Hershey Med Center. And I've seen some of the difficulties with prescription medications, things like the opioid crisis. I've been a skeptic on cannabis my whole life. As I said, I grew up as a middle-aged farm boy. And so last person you'd think would be stoked about researching cannabis. But about 3 years ago, I took a turn away from orthopedic surgery and began to certify patients to receive a medical cannabis card in Pennsylvania. It's not a prescription. It's simply acknowledging that they have a condition. And honestly, over the last 2.5, 3 years, I've been astonished at the results in these patients, these 2,500 patients here in central PA, and to see the improvement in their lives firsthand with the use of cannabinoids, including THC, sometimes very little THC, but some remarkable things that go beyond anecdotal. And seeing that improvement in people really has pushed me to chase this government approval, because I think that when we bring true testing and legitimate clinical trials, it'll be quite revealing what cannabis can do for people. And I've been shocked with what I've seen in a good way. And so I'm excited to bring my experience and background on the science side, the medical side, to cannabis and create a new type of paradigm, frankly.
Oh, wow. Okay. How about CBD use in children? What can you tell me about that, like from a medical point of view? Is there much research about CBD use in kids, for, I don't know, ADHD or, any other things like that?
Eric, again, great question. And frankly, that's the easiest question to answer, because the use of hemp extract, mainly CBD, is the basis of a drug that we've all heard talked about called Epidiolex. Mm-hmm. And Epidiolex is the only cannabis-derived medication approved by the FDA in history. And credit to GW Pharma for starting this 20 years ago. But the reality is CBD in an instance with intractable seizures is remarkable, a safe medicine to stop seizures when many other medicines don't work. And so ironically, in children, we have the most data on CBD There's a slight chance of it elevating liver enzymes. That's why you now see major CBD companies doing background checks on liver levels in adults who use CBD, because the Epidiolex trials, there was a slight elevation of liver enzymes. It was slight. It was not common, but anyway, the reality is it's wonderful for seizures, and there's many people are optimistic that it can help with ADD and some other issues, but we need more clinical trials, and you'll hear myself and many others in the medical cannabis space really emphasizing it over and over again. Because of prohibition, we just haven't studied this enough, and
Right.
We're going to catch up quickly. And that's why this new DEA, FDA program, we anticipate being a huge factor in having a large supply of research cannabinoids at a pharmaceutical level that are now approved for use across state lines, sold to other DEA registrants, and we expect research to go up dramatically in the next few years with an additional grower.
Right. Yeah, good. We could use that. Getting back to fiber and the future of Groff North America, let's say we check in with you, I don't know, 10 years from now, where are we going to be?
I hope I'm on a beach somewhere. I'm just kidding. I'm 56. I'm getting too old for this, but no, I feel like I'm just getting started. I'm so honored to be part of this. We have taken some pioneering moves in fiber and cannabinoid. There's a lot to tackle. There's a lot of heavy lifting to be done to get the fiber and grain and seed aspect off the ground in America, but we fully believe it should happen. We want to be part of it. We've taken a stab at getting it started. On the other hand, we have a lot of opportunities to stand up as far as even sub-businesses. With my medical background, I'm very passionate about this DEA approval and the opportunity to do medical research. So to me, that's probably my number one focus, but we've set up a great opportunity on the fiber side, and we're talking to some strategic partners that are very interested. So I'm taking life a day at a time, but I'm very thankful for being able to persist and be a survivor in a bumpy couple of years. But we're in a unique position to take on some of the challenges in both fiber and cannabinoids.
Great. Do you know of any other companies in Pennsylvania that are who have decortication machines or are going to be launching into that soon? Like, who else is out there right now in the state?
Well, there's a bunch of folks and a lot of great people in Pennsylvania and beyond that have been talking about it. And I don't know of official statuses of equipment and that kind of thing, but the fiber and hemp side the fiber and seed side are very exciting, one opportunity, but some challenges. Margins are tough, and convincing consumers to make that switch, it's going to be some hard work, but again, I believe well worth it. And there's a lot of neat opportunity in that space.
You said you'll be growing about 40 acres at Wyndridge this year. Will you be contracting any of the farmers that you worked with in the past?
We expect to work with the farmer who's been farming at Wyndridge for the last 5 or 10 years. We're finalizing an agreement for him to handle the actual cultivation with equipment like we've done before.
Okay.
Air drill and such.
Right. All right. Well, hey, it's great to catch up with you and hear what's going on. Is there anything else you want to share with our listening audience?
No, it's been great to connect again, and appreciate the time.
All right. Dr. Steve Groff from Groff North America and Wyndridge Farms. Thank you.
Thanks, Eric. Have a great day.
Yeah, I am having a great day, and I hope you are too. And thank you for listening to our show. I always learn so much from putting this show together, and I appreciate that you are part of our audience. So my name is Eric Herlock. I am the digital editor at Lancaster Farming Newspaper, the greatest agricultural newspaper in the world. And so to put that to the test, I'm going to go on a road trip this summer. I'm going to go follow the supply chain along the hemp, fiber, and grain trail. First, we're going to North Carolina, and then to Kentucky, and up through St. Louis, across the Midwest to Kansas, out to Colorado. And then we're going to sweep around counterclockwise around the Rockies, end up in Oregon, and then Montana, and Nebraska, and Illinois, and then home. It's going to be a 6-week trip, and I hope to meet lots of people. To learn more how you can get involved in this trip, we're looking for sponsors, we're looking for people to visit, hemp farms along the way, all that stuff. please drop me a line. You can send it to podcast@lancasterfarming.com or call and leave me a message at 717-721-4462. We are just looking to get the word out about this trip because it is going to be amazing, and I'm really excited about it, and the folks at Lancaster Farming are excited about it, and it's going to be great. You'll hear a lot more about this trip in the coming weeks, but we're going to embark at the very end of June and come back at the beginning of August, so I'll see you in July. All right, so thanks again. What else do I need to say? Oh, right. Until next time, I'll see you in the newspaper.
Industrial hemp.
Episode 129 of the Lancaster Farming Industrial Hemp Podcast is copyright 2021 by Lancaster Farming Newspaper, which is part of the Steinman Communications family. Today's show is written and recorded, edited, and produced by yours truly, Eric Herlock, and the music you hear throughout the show is courtesy of Tinbird Shadow.